Hello my dear students, welcome to computer science class. Let us continue with our chapter control statements. In our previous video, we have studied about the for loop and few of the examples related to the for loop we have seen. Now before we continue with our for loop, let us have a quick glance on the syntax and the flowchart of the for loop and when we have to use this for loop. So this particular for loop is usually being referred as the fixed execution looping statement. So why we refer this one as a fixed execution looping statement? Because whenever we know how many times the loop has to be iterated or repeated in advance, okay, if I initially know that the how many iterations should take place, like 10, 20 iterations, I know so many iterations have to take place in advance before only I know, then I can go for this particular for loop statement. So therefore we refer it as a fixed execution looping statement. Means what n is equal to 10, you have fixed the number, no? So many times the repetition would take place. Like for example, here I have taken the condition as 5. So I want this particular loop to be iterated at least for the 5 times. For the 5 times I want this loop to be iterated. So this number is particular, it is fixed now. So therefore, when I give this particular number, so many number of times only the loop gets iterated. Therefore, the name we have given this one as fixed execution looping statement. Understood, children? Then when to use this for loop? Just now I said, like as when we know in advance how many number of iterations should take place. If you know, then we can go for the for loop. And this for loop is having 3 parts in this. The first is the initialization part, the next is the condition, and the third one is the increment or the decrement. Initialization, so this initialization is used to initialize the counter variable. Okay, we refer this one as a control variable. We can refer it as a loop control variable or the counter variable also we can refer. Why? Because this is the variable which is actually completely controlling this particular loop. Therefore, we call it as counter or the loop control variable. And always remember, initialization happens only once, which is an assignment operator. We are using an assignment operator here. And finally, once after this initialization is over, the control jumps to the condition. So this condition actually, it may consist of the relational expression where this condition actually determines when the loop will exit. So as I can see, the loop will exit when I variable becomes the value as 6. 6 less than or is equal to 5, the condition fails. So based upon this only I can determine whether we can go for the iteration or not. Therefore, I can say this condition determines when the loop exits. Sorry. Moving on to the next part of the for loop, that is increment or the decrement. So this increment or the decrement part says how the loop or the counter variable will increment or decrement after every iteration. That is what is the third part. But remember, so here assignment happens only once and the condition will iterate as it will keeps on iterating as this condition becomes true. Once the condition becomes false, the control comes out of the for loop. I hope you are able to recall these points. Now, same way in the flow chart, you may say this, what is IV and FV? IV actually stands for initial value of counter variable and final value of the counter variable. Therefore, if I write it in this form of program form here, I can write as that is I is equal to, that is I starts from which value? That is 1. So 1 to 5. If this condition satisfies, then these set of statements will execute. After that, again the control where it goes. Control goes to increment or decrement part. After again increment happens, again the counter goes to the checking for condition. If condition is true, again these set of statements will be executed. Again the I value will get incremented. So like this, the iteration takes place until this condition is true. Once the condition is false, the control comes out of the for loop. I hope children you are able to recall. Moving on to the programming examples here. I think we have to come to the program. To print all the odd numbers up to the given limit we have completed. The next program what we have to see is to find the factorial of a given number. Factorial, I hope you all know that how to find the factorial of a given number. In your mathematics you have already studied. The same thing here we are going to discuss in the form of programming. So like here they enter the number, they have given 7. Now 7 factorial, how do you calculate? 7 into 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. That gives you the total factorial of this given number, that is 7. Now for this we have taken the header file IOStream, that is for cout and cin, and conio.h is for the functions, that is clear screen and getch, and iomanup is for the endl. We have taken endl and setw. Now coming to the program here, main function, we have declared the 3 variables, that is n, fact and I, of type integer we have taken, and then clear screen. Then we have asked the user to enter the number, okay, and then we are reading the number. Now here I am initializing the value as 1 for the variable known as fact. Why? Because factorial always starts from 1, it shouldn't go for 0, right? Like when I said the factorial of 7 into 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1 into 0, if you do, overall I'll get as 0, right? So therefore I am initializing the fact value, it should be as 1, understood? And then I am writing this program by the help of for loop, okay. So I am initializing the counter variable to 1, and up to what condition the loop has to iterate? Up to the n value, that is 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5 into 6 into 7. So what is the lower limit? Actually it's the counter should start from 1 and it should end up to the upper limit. What is the upper limit? Upper limit is nothing but the given number, that is 7. Therefore I have given less than or is equals to 7. I hope you are able to understand this particular condition how to give. And then finally I am incrementing every time the counter variable by 1 value. On satisfying this condition, the control goes to this particular statement where fact is equal to fact into I. That means here actually I am calculating the factorial. How I will do? I will be explaining this one while tracing the program. And finally, once this condition becomes false, control automatically jumps to the next statement. It comes out of this for loop and control goes to the next statement wherein I am printing the answer, that is 7. N is nothing but the 7. So 7 followed by, this is a string, no? Static string. So same thing, because it is enclosed under double quote. So as it is, it will be replaced. That is not equal. This is factorial symbol actually. Factorial, okay, is equals to fact. Whatever the calculated answer I am holding here in this particular variable, the same thing will be replaced. So this is what is the program. Now let us come to the tracing so that you can clearly understand. Now here I have taken the children, the value of n to be as 5, okay, and I have initialized the variable fact to be as 1, and what will be my lower limit and upper limit here? My loop control should start from 1 and it should end up to this n value, that means 1 should be less than or is equal to 5. Up to that, so many number of times the iteration should takes place, children. Understood? So on satisfying this condition, I am actually calculating the factorial. Coming to the first iteration, I value will be what? Always assignment takes place only once. Okay. So I value is equals to 1. Then next control jumps to the condition checking, right? So whether 1 is less than or is equal to 5. Isn't it the n value is 5 here, children? 1 is less than or is equal to 5. Yes, the condition is true. Once the condition is true, we are entering into the next. That is a true part of this for statement is this statement. The very next statement, always remember, the very next statement of the for statement will be considered as a true part. Now here this is a single statement. The true part may be the compound or the block statement also it might be. Okay. So what is that? Fact is equal to fact into I. So what is there in the fact? Actually 1. So 1 into what is the value of current value of I? That is 1. So 1 into 1. So again the calculation takes place and we are assigning to the variable which is there in the left hand side. Therefore the value of fact will be 1. After this the control comes to the increment or the decrement part. I hope you understand this one. Okay, every time the incrementation takes place. So I value gets incremented. When I value gets incremented, I becomes 2. So for the second iteration, for your understanding, I have written here, but actually initialization happens only once. Okay, now I is holding the value as 2 children. Again 2 is less than or is equal to 5. Yes, the condition is true. Since the condition is true, it is making an entry into the loop. Again, now this time we have to calculate the factorial. What is the previous value of fact? That is 1 into I it is, right? So what is the current variable of I value? That is 2. So 1 into 2 is 2. So the new previous 1 will be erased and the new value will be placed in the variable known as fact. Okay. Again I gets incremented. When I gets incremented for the third iteration, whether 3 is less than or is equal to 5, yes, the condition is true. I have not written here because I gets incremented, so I becomes 3. 3 is less than or is equal to 5, yes, the condition is true. Again we are calculating the factorial. What is the previous value of fact, children? That is 2. So 2 into what is the current value of I? That is 3. That is 2 into 3 is 6. So the new value will be stored in the fact. So like this, again I gets incremented. When I gets incremented, I becomes what? 4 here. Whether 4 is less than or is equal to 5, children? Yes, the condition is true. So again what happens? Previous value of fact is 6. So 6 into 4, that is 24. 24 will be assigned with the, that is in the variable, that is fact. Again I gets incremented. Now I becomes what? 5. 5 is less than or is equals to 5. At least it is equals to, right? Yes, the condition is true. We are calculating the factorial. That is 24 into current variable of I is holding 5. So 24 into 5, that is 120 will be assigned here. Again I gets incremented. When I gets incremented, I becomes what? 6. 6 is less than or is equal to 5. The condition is false. Once the condition is false, control completely comes out of the for loop and control goes to the next statement. So what is there in the next statement as per our program? It is nothing but the printing statement, isn't it? That is n followed by the factorial symbol is equals to the fact. So 5 here. This is 5. The same thing. Factorial is equal to 120. So therefore when I enter the number as 5, I am getting the factorial value as 120. Let me execute this program and show you. Yes, that is this factorial program. Okay. So let me run the value, run the sample code here. See, I am giving the input as 5 and enter. This is 5 factorial. Let me give the another input, that is I'll give this time 7 and I enter. See, 5040. You can calculate. You take some different number and try to trace the programs. Once you are able to trace the program, then it is understood that you have clearly understood the concept of the for loop. Suppose if I give the semicolon here, will this program execute? So it will never consider this fact is equal to fact into I as the true part of this for statement. If I am giving semicolon, then compiler will understand that is this is the end of the statement and this statement will never get executed. It will never become a part of the for loop. Therefore, I will never get the factorial value also. I hope you are able to understand. Coming back to the next program here. Yeah, that is to find all the integer divisors of a number. Suppose children, if I enter the number as 12, their integer divisors will be always half of that, up to 6 I'll get. Suppose if I give enter the number as 8, the integer divisors of 8 will be its half, that is up to 4. That is means what? 8 is divisible by 2 and 4. Similarly, 12 is divisible by what? Till the range, till half of the number will be divisible. Like 2, 3, 4 and 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 up to those numbers cannot divide the number as 12. Okay. Similarly, if I give the number as 7, then its integers divisors will be half of that number. That is suppose if I am giving 14, their integer divisors will be half of that. That will be up to 7. Okay. So within the range I am giving, that is 1 to 7, within that particular range the integer divisors will be there. Okay, now let us understand this program so that you can clearly understand the concept. Okay, So here I have written the 3 header files, then main function, then followed by the 2 variables I have taken here, n and I. Okay, and then clear screen. Now I am asking the user to enter the number. The user have entered the number here. Then I am just printing before I want the actual output. I am just printing here the integer divisors are. Okay. Now what is the logic? As I said, if I am taking the number as 12, their integer divisors will lie between the half of the range of that given number, like 1 to 6. If I am taking 14, that will be 1 to 7. Therefore, the logic what I have written, I is equals to 2. Okay, I have taken it I is equals to 2. Then followed by I should be less than or is equal to n divided by 2 I have taken. That means to make the half. Suppose if I am entering as 20, 20 divided by 2, it's half. Its divisors will be there within the half of that particular given number. Therefore, I will be getting here as what? As 10. And how my loop should be incremented? It should be incremented by 1. On satisfying this condition, okay, what I am checking, the integer divisors means what? The number has to be completely divisible and its remainder I should get as 0. Then only I can say that it's one of the divisors of the given number, isn't it? So therefore, I am dividing that given number with the I value, that means modulus operator. So whatever the division I do, since I am using the modulus operator, I should get the remainder as 0. Then only if I am after this particular modulus operation, if I am getting the completely remainder as 0, then I will consider that one is that number as an integer divisor and I would like to print that value. I hope you are able to understand. Understood? Now here I have entered the number as 108. Okay, the 108. See, half of this 108 is what? 54. That means the integer divisors of this particular number lies between the range from 2 to 54. Within these only I will be getting the integer divisors. Therefore, I have written this particular logic. I hope you are able to understand. Now you may ask that why it should be I less than equal to n. You do it, but the number of iterations will be more. See, apart from 54, apart from half of the number, we will not get their integer divisors only. Then why to waste your time? Why to make so many number of iterations when we know that their integer divisors we are getting till the half of the number only, isn't it, children? That is why we have written here n divided by 2. Coming to the program tracing here, I have considered here n to be as 12. Okay, so you can take a bigger number and you can trace the program with in your fair book with the other number you can try. So here the iterations would become more. Therefore, I have taken the number as 12 here. And for I is equal to 2, I should be less than or is equal to n divided by 2, and then I plus plus. So if n mod I is equals to 0, then I am printing that integer divisors. So at the first iteration, what happens? I is equals to 2. For the first iteration, because of this for loop, I is equal to 2. So after this, it goes to the condition checking. What is the value of I? That is 2. So n divided by 2 means what? 12 divided by 2, that is 6. So whether 2 is less than or is equal to 6? Yes, the condition is true. On satisfying this condition, okay, whether 12 mod 2, on satisfying this condition, what is the true part of this for loop? That is, this if statement is the true part. So therefore, it makes an entry, okay. So if 12 mod 2, so is it, when you divide it, whether I am getting 12 divided by 2 is what? 6, and what this is 6 is a question. What I am getting the remainder as 0 I am getting. So 0. So this condition also is satisfying. So on satisfying this if condition, I am printing that particular integer divisor as 2 here. See here, true part of this for statement is this if, and true part of this if statement is this statement. If this for condition fails for us, okay, automatically the control comes out of this for. Understood? Then what if this condition fails? if this condition fails, the control will not come out of the for loop. In fact, the I value will get incremented. Now let us understand now. Here what happens? It completely divisible by 0. Completely divisible by 2. So it is equals to 0. I am printing the value of I. Now 2 gets incremented. Now 2 gets incremented means the value here what happens of I, that would become 3. Whether 3 is less than or is equal to 6, the condition is true. Once this condition is true, we are making an entry into the loop. You see 12 on satisfying 12 mod 3 when you do it, isn't it? 3 4s are 12 and the remainder I am getting 0 children. Therefore, on satisfying this condition, I am printing the value of I. So 3 is printed. Coming to the third iteration. Here I gets incremented after that. I always gets incremented until this condition becomes false. Once I gets incremented, I value becomes what? 4. 4 is less than or is equal to 6 children. Yes, the condition is true. 12 mod 4 means what? That is we know that 4 3s are 12 and it is completely divisible by 0. Am I right? Therefore, on satisfying this condition, I am printing the I value. Therefore, 4 is being printed. After that, I gets incremented. When I gets incremented to the fourth iteration, I value will become what? 5. Whether 5 is less than or is equal to 6 children. Yes, the condition is true. Once this condition is true, the loop it's making an entry into the loop and here it is checking whether 12 mod 5 is equals to 0. 12 mod 5 is equals to 0. Now you see 5 is not, 5 2s are 10, 2 will be the remainder. Here the condition becomes false. See, once the if condition becomes false, the true part of this if condition is this one, no, printing. Printing will skip. Printing will skip and control again jumps to the incrementing of I because still the condition of this I is true, children. I hope you are able to understand. The true part of this for loop is this if statement. The true part of this if statement is this one. If this condition is failing, control automatically goes back to the increment of for loop. So here what happens? I gets incremented. 6 is less than or is equal to 6. The condition is true, children. Once the condition is true, it makes an entry here. Whether 12 mod 6, yes, 6 2s are 12, it is completely divisible. Therefore, I am getting the remainder as 0. After that, again, I gets incremented. When I gets incremented, I becomes what? 7. Whether 7 is less than or is equal to 6, here the condition fails. Once the condition is fails, the control completely comes out of this for loop and control directly jumps to the next statement what is there. Understood? What is there in the next statement as per our program, children? That is get CH. So therefore, the complete divisors, integer divisors of this particular given number 12 is what? 2, 3, 4 and 6. I hope, children, you are able to understand. So what you have to do is you have to study the program, okay, without seeing, you write it and then take a number and try to trace the program. Once if you are tracing the program, you will be able to clearly understand how exactly the program works. Okay, moving on to the next concept, that is the jump statement or the transfer of control from within loop. See, till now we have seen the selection statements we have seen and then looping statements. Selection statements like if else, else if, ladder, okay, and if else if statement, that is nested if format 2, and then we have also seen the switch statement. All these are nothing but the selection statement. And then we have also seen the looping statements like while loop, do while loop, and then the for loop. So these looping statements were helping you to iterate or repeat the certain set of statements depending upon the condition. Now we are going to study the jump statement or the transfer. Sometimes it so happens that when you are executing the program, your program demands to immediately terminate the program, abruptly terminate the program, or abruptly come out of the loop, or it wants to make a jump from one statement to the another, or if it wants to skip certain part of the statement and then goes to the control has to go to some next statement. So in that case we are going to study that is jump statement or the transfer of control from within loop. That is transfer of control within looping are used for the first one to terminate the execution of the loop. Why we are going to study these jump statement? Because to first terminate the execution of loop and to exit a loop, okay, and half a way to skip the loop. Certain number of statements you have executed, and later you want to terminate, and then you have to skip those statements, and then you have control has to jump to some other part of the statement. For that reason you are going to use all these jump statement. And how do I use how do I use these jump statement? All these tasks I can perform by using the break, exit and continue statement. By using these three statements, that is break, exit and continue, we can perform all these operations. I hope children you are able to understand. So in my next video classes we shall discuss the programs related to these topics. Okay, thank you students, take care of yourself.